You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Security architecture refers to the design principles and structural patterns that ensure systems, networks, and services are protected against threats. Just as a building requires a blueprint to specify where walls, doors, and locks should go, organizations require a blueprint that specifies where controls, monitoring, and boundaries belong in digital systems. Architecture is not about adding ad hoc defenses after the fact, but about embedding security into the very foundation of how systems are built and operated. It encompasses both technical components, such as encryption and segmentation, and organizational decisions, such as governance and compliance. Security architecture acts as the guiding map that brings coherence to complex environments. The relationship between architecture and security requirements is direct and inseparable. Requirements describe what needs to be protected, what risks must be mitigated, and what regulations must be satisfied. Architecture translates those requirements into actual designs, which technologies to use, how systems should be arranged, and where defenses must reside. If requirements are ignored, architecture may leave gaps that attackers exploit. Conversely, strong requirements without sound architecture become impractical, costly, or inconsistent. The two work together, with requirements providing direction and architecture ensuring that objectives are implemented effectively and sustainably. Together, they ensure that business needs and security align. Threat modeling plays a pivotal role in shaping architectural decisions. It is the process of systematically analyzing how adversaries might attack a system, identifying assets, entry points, and likely attacker behaviors. By anticipating threats during the design phase, organizations can make architecture resilient before deployment. For example, if a threat model highlights credential theft as a risk, the architecture may embed multi-factor authentication and secure identity management systems. Threat modeling ensures that security decisions are not generic, but tailored to the organization's unique risks. It creates a proactive posture, embedding resilience into architecture rather than bolting it on reactively. Core security design principles shape every architecture. The principle of least privilege ensures users and services are granted only the access they require, reducing damage from compromise. Defense in depth layers multiple controls, such as firewalls, intrusion detection, and endpoint protection, so that if one fails, others remain in place. Fail-safe defaults ensure systems deny access by default and only permit actions explicitly approved. Together, these principles create a mindset of restraint, redundancy, and safety. They serve as guiding heuristics, ensuring that architectures consistently prioritize risk reduction. Without them, designs risk becoming inconsistent or biased toward convenience over security. Asset classification is fundamental to how architecture supports data protection. Not all assets have equal value, so architecture must reflect differences in sensitivity and importance. Data may be classified as public, internal, confidential, or highly restricted, with controls scaling accordingly. High-value assets may require encryption, segmentation, and additional monitoring, while less critical systems can operate with lighter protections. By embedding classification into architecture, organizations allocate resources intelligently, applying strong defenses where they matter most. Asset-driven architecture prevents the waste of overprotecting trivial data, while ensuring that critical business and regulatory assets receive the focus they demand. Trustworthy computing emphasizes designing for resilience, reliability, and predictability. The concept is that users, stakeholders, and even regulators must be able to trust that systems operate securely under normal and adverse conditions. This involves anticipating failure and ensuring systems fail safely, not catastrophically. It also requires ensuring that the architecture supports recovery and continuity when disruptions occur. Trustworthy computing demands integrity, confidentiality, and availability as architectural cornerstones. By building trustworthiness into designs, organizations reduce surprises, improve user confidence, and prepare for inevitable disruptions. Resilience becomes not just an outcome, but a design philosophy embedded from the start. Architecture also enables scalability and secure growth. As organizations expand, architectures must accommodate new users, services, and technologies without collapsing under complexity or compromising security. Scalable architectures use modular designs and service boundaries, allowing capacity to grow while maintaining control. For example, cloud-based architectures might leverage automation to provision secure environments rapidly, ensuring growth does not outpace security oversight. Scalability ensures that security is not a bottleneck but a consistent companion as organizations adapt. Without scalable architecture, rapid growth leads to inconsistent controls, weak monitoring, and heightened risk. Secure growth is achieved only when architecture anticipates change. Integration points for identity, logging, and monitoring are essential architectural considerations. Identity systems serve as the gateway for users and services, making their integration a central design decision. Logging must be embedded to capture security events across all layers, and monitoring must be positioned to provide real-time visibility. Placing these elements strategically within the architecture ensures that organizations maintain awareness and control. If identity is fragmented or logging inconsistent, attackers exploit the blind spots. Architecture unifies these elements, ensuring they work in harmony as part of a coherent design rather than disconnected tools bolted onto systems. Segmentation and isolation are powerful architectural levers for limiting risk. By dividing systems into zones and isolating critical assets from general networks, architectures reduce the pathways available to attackers. For example, isolating databases from web servers ensures that compromise of a public-facing system does not automatically grant access to sensitive data. Isolation extends beyond networks, applying to workloads, applications, and user roles. Effective architecture uses segmentation deliberately, aligning it with trust boundaries and risk models. This strategy ensures that even when compromises occur, their blast radius remains limited, preventing small incidents from cascading into systemic breaches. Architecture must also incorporate regulatory and compliance constraints. Industries like healthcare, finance, and government impose strict requirements for data handling, encryption, and auditing. Architecture translates these constraints into enforceable controls mandating encryption for personal health data, requiring logs for financial transactions, or enforcing retention policies for government records. Embedding compliance into architecture prevents last-minute scrambling to meet audits. Instead, systems are designed to inherently satisfy regulatory requirements. This approach also demonstrates accountability, ensuring stakeholders that compliance is integral, not superficial. By aligning with compliance from the design stage, architectures reduce both legal risk and operational friction. Ultimately, security architecture is the blueprint that guides all controls and operations. It ensures that requirements are translated into reality, that principles are consistently applied, and that defenses are integrated coherently. Without architecture, security becomes a patchwork of disconnected tools and reactive measures. With it, organizations gain structure, predictability, and resilience. Architecture provides the framework that allows monitoring, identity, segmentation, and compliance to work together. It is not just a technical artifact, but a strategic asset, aligning security with business priorities and long-term resilience. Security architecture provides the discipline and foresight that modern organizations cannot function without. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. High-level architectural patterns give organizations structured ways to build secure systems. Layered architectures, sometimes described as the onion model, separate responsibilities into tiers such as presentation, application, and data. Each layer enforces its own controls, so attackers must overcome multiple hurdles to succeed. Modularization breaks systems into independent components, reducing complexity and making it easier to apply security updates. Service boundaries clearly define where one system ends and another begins, ensuring trust is not assumed across them. These patterns prevent sprawl and help maintain clarity in design. By adopting them, organizations establish predictable frameworks for embedding security across distributed environments. Reference architectures and standards help organizations avoid reinventing the wheel when designing secure systems. They provide tested patterns and best practices that can be repeated across projects. For example, cloud providers publish reference architectures for secure deployment of workloads, while industry groups provide templates for compliance-oriented designs. These models incorporate lessons learned from common pitfalls, ensuring organizations build on proven foundations. Reference architectures also enable consistency, which is vital for security. If every team improvises, oversight becomes nearly impossible. By aligning with standards, organizations not only improve resilience, but also demonstrate adherence to recognized practices during audits and reviews. Architectural trade-offs are inevitable, and security must often be balanced with usability, performance, and cost. Strong encryption may improve confidentiality, but reduce system performance. Excessive segmentation may increase security, but complicate user workflows. Adding layers of authentication may frustrate employees if not designed thoughtfully. Architecture requires decision-making that weighs these factors while keeping security requirements intact. Trade-offs should be explicit, documented, and risk-informed, not hidden compromises. By treating trade-offs as a natural part of the design process, organizations make conscious choices about where to invest resources, ensuring that security strengthens the business rather than impeding it unnecessarily. Explicit trust boundaries are essential in system diagrams. A trust boundary marks where assumptions about trust change, such as where external users access internal systems or where one network zone connects to another. By making these boundaries explicit, architects identify where controls like authentication, encryption, and validation must be applied. Without clearly drawn trust boundaries, it is easy to overlook where attackers may exploit weak assumptions. Diagrams that highlight trust boundaries make security visible and actionable, guiding defenders to apply protections where they are most needed. Boundaries ensure architectures reflect reality. Trust must always be earned, never assumed. Logging and telemetry placement are architectural decisions that significantly influence detection capabilities. Where logs are collected, how much detail they capture, and how they are centralized all depend on design choices made at the architectural level. For example, an architecture that fails to capture logs at API gateways leaves blind spots in transaction visibility. Similarly, placing sensors only at the perimeter may miss lateral movement inside the network. Good architecture plans telemetry holistically, ensuring comprehensive coverage across layers and critical assets. By designing logging as part of the blueprint, organizations avoid piecemeal collection and ensure detection remains reliable. Architecture also supports incident response and forensic readiness. Systems designed with response in mind include centralized logging, preserved evidence, and clear isolation mechanisms. For example, architectures that support network segmentation make it easier to quarantine compromised systems without disrupting everything else. Forensic readiness requires logs that are tamper-evident, synchronized, and retained long enough for investigations. Without architectural planning, incident response becomes reactive and disorganized. Embedding response and forensic considerations into architecture ensures organizations are prepared for inevitable breaches. This transforms incidents from crises into manageable events, with structures already in place to guide analysis and containment. Automation and policy enforcement sustain architectural integrity over time. Even the most secure design erodes if configurations drift or human error introduces inconsistencies. Automation ensures policies, such as encryption requirements or access rules, are continuously applied across systems. Policy enforcement tools, including infrastructure as code frameworks, validate that deployments align with architectural baselines. This prevents misalignments from persisting unnoticed. By embedding automation, organizations turn static designs into living, enforceable realities. Architecture is not simply about drawing diagrams, but about ensuring those diagrams continue to reflect reality. Automation closes the gap between design intent and operational execution. Secure integration of third-party services and APIs is another architectural consideration. Modern organizations rely heavily on vendors for cloud hosting, identity services, and software platforms. These integrations expand the attack surface, so architecture must enforce strict validation, authentication, and monitoring at these junctions. API gateways, encrypted connections, and vendor vetting processes all reduce risk. Without secure integration, attackers may exploit weak links in the supply chain. Designing integration points carefully ensures external dependencies do not undermine overall security. Architecture recognizes that third parties are extensions of the environment and must be managed with the same rigor as internal systems. Architecture review practices and governance checkpoints ensure designs remain aligned with both security principles and business needs. Reviews provide opportunities to challenge assumptions, validate threat models, and confirm compliance with standards. Governance checkpoints require approvals before systems move from design into deployment, adding accountability to the process. Without these steps, insecure designs may slip into production unchecked. Reviews also provide cross-team collaboration, aligning developers, security staff, and business stakeholders. This process makes architecture a living dialogue rather than a one-time exercise. Governance ensures that secure architecture is both intentional and consistently applied across projects. Capacity planning and resilience considerations are embedded within architecture to ensure secure systems also remain reliable under stress. Designing for redundancy, load balancing, and failover ensures services survive disruptions without compromising security. For example, resilience planning might ensure that encryption services have redundant hardware security modules, HSMs, so that cryptography does not fail during outages. Capacity planning avoids scenarios where overloaded systems skip logging or bypass controls to maintain performance. Architecture ensures security and reliability are not treated separately, but as intertwined goals. A secure system that collapses under load is not resilient. Architecture prevents this fragility. Documenting architectural artifacts provides operational teams with the clarity needed for handoff, maintenance, and audits. Diagrams, control matrices, and data flow maps make architecture visible, not just conceptual. Clear documentation ensures that future administrators can understand trust boundaries, integration points, and dependencies without relying on tribal knowledge. For auditors, documentation provides evidence of intentional design and adherence to standards. For incident responders, it provides a roadmap for containment. Documentation makes architecture practical, bridging the gap between strategy and daily operations. Without it, even strong designs falter because their rationale and structure are lost over time. In conclusion, robust security architecture reduces risk and enables secure business capabilities. It provides patterns, reference points, and governance that make security consistent, scalable, and aligned with organizational goals. By embedding logging, trust boundaries, resilience, and automation into the blueprint, architecture transforms environments from reactive to proactive. It reduces reliance on after-the-fact controls by ensuring security is present at every layer of design. When organizations treat architecture as strategic, they gain both protection and agility. Security becomes a structured enabler, not an obstacle. Architecture, when executed thoughtfully, is the cornerstone of sustainable, resilient cybersecurity. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.